Agenda, introduction to We Act for Environmental Justice. We have upcoming announcements from We Act staff. We have breakout room sessions in 5 rooms. And we're developing questions for the elected officials in those rooms. Introduction of your elected officials. And after that, we'll have a Q&A with the new New York City leaders, the newly elected leaders. And then we'll have closing words. Next slide, Billy. Announcements. Safer Beauty Bill package.
No, Ron, that's
okay. That's it. That's it for me. Okay.
Hi, I'm Yua Vosper. I'm the Policy and Regulatory Manager based in New York, but with the DC office. And I am here today to invite you to participate in a Zoom lobby training on the federal Safer Beauty Bills package. This is a suite of 4 bills regarding toxic beauty and beauty and personal care products, transparency and ingredients, supply chain, and health for salon workers, especially nail salon workers and beauty salon workers. And as I said, it's a suite of 4 bills, and we are offering a lobby training for NGO leaders, community members, breast cancer survivors, salon workers, scientists, nurses, and we will be providing a detailed briefing on the 4 bills that make up our Safer Beauty Bills package. And we help you get comfortable and ready to lobby and learn about lobby training and give you the skills that are needed to urgently close the gaps in the federal cosmetics industry. Once you've completed the training, we will be inviting you to join in small teams where we will conduct virtual lobby trainings. These are virtual. You will not be going to DC. And we will discuss with key members of Congress in February and March. I will drop the link in the chat if you would like to participate. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jasmine Graham, and we have another announcement that is an upcoming webinar on January 19th at 7:30 p.m. And it is to learn about community choice aggregation, or CCA, which is a really complicated term, but it is something that would increase local communities' ability to purchase and own renewable energy. It is an energy democracy strategy, and it's really interesting. So I'll drop the link in the chat for those of you who want to RSVP and learn more. I will be one of the speakers, and we hope to see you there.
Morning, everyone. My name is Annie, and I am the climate justice organizer at We Act. Excuse me, my voice. Oh no. Okay, I'm back. We Act's climate justice working group has been developing an extreme weather disaster plan for Northern Manhattan that focuses on preparation for incidents of extreme heat and flooding. So we're having our first public meeting on January 27th at 6 p.m. With our partners at Harlem Emergency Network and East Harlem COED for residents of Northern Manhattan who want to participate in the planning process. So we're gonna, this meeting will be an opportunity to brainstorm how you would respond to weather emergencies like extreme heat or flooding, and identify solutions that'll help keep our community safe. So I'm gonna drop a registration link in the chat. Please feel free to share with your networks, and please feel free to email me if you have any questions.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Pamela Stewart Martinez. I'm a community organizer here at We Act in the Voter Engagement Division, and we are going to have our first civic engagement info session of 2022. And this one is going to be about the responsibilities of the your executive board of the political parties that rule the city. And we have some expert panelists who are going to be participating in this. We have our very own William Allen, who is a district leader. District leaders are part of the executive board. We have Patrick DeLeese, who is part of the board in the Bronx. He's for the Republican Party. We also have Ms. Ortiz Thompson, who is a district leader here in Manhattan. And we also have an election lawyer who is a political expert on everything regarding executive boards, for political parties. It's going to be very, very exciting. So I will be there as well. I'm a district leader myself. And so this is going to be very, very informative. I hope that you can attend February 1st, be there or be square or left out, but I'm sure you don't want to be left out. So be there. It's going to start at 7 o'clock. And then also our We Act for Change team has created a form for folks who are thinking about running for office in this 2022 election. If you are planning on running and you would like to get more details from We Act for Change about the possibility of endorsements, I will put in the chat a link to sign up for that. So you'll have a link to sign up for the Civic Engagement 2022 political series that starts on February 1st. And you'll also have a link if you're a candidate interested in running for office in 2022 and you're looking for endorsements, please click on that link. Thank you. And I'll pass it on to LJ.
Hey, good morning, everybody. LJ here, the Environmental Policy and Advocacy Coordinator here at We Act. Wanted to let you all know that on February 3rd at 6:30 p.m., the Community Board 11, during the Community Board 11 meeting for the Environment, Open Space, and Parks, they're going to be giving a East Harlem waterfront update. So the NYC and Economic Development Corporation has been in charge of managing the projects that have been going on in the East Harlem waterfront. I know that's something that we've all talked about in our policy membership meeting that we've had before. So if you really want to get an update on what's going on and everything from there, definitely encourage everyone to show up and ask questions and get informed on the updates. I'm going to drop a link in the chat. Currently, there is no registration link. So this link is going to go to the CB11 calendar. And once we get closer to the date, once they have an actual registration link, I'll make sure I'll send that out to everyone as well.
Okay, I guess this is me. Yes, so this kind of format of this meeting, we will be going into a 5 breakout groups where we'll be developing questions for the elected officials. We thought that, well, it's important that you guys participate in this in this process because we are here to support the community and here to support your ideas around the environmental issues that we are concerned with. So that's what's going to take place. You're going to be in a group with 2 We Act staff members. They're going to be, one is going to be a facilitator and one is going to be a note taker. We're going to try out this new Jamboard so that way we can actually get the notes on paper or electronic paper, as we would say nowadays, and to make sure that all your ideas are fleshed out. So at 11 o'clock, we'll have a good amount of information to share with the elected officials and a good amount of questions. Okay, did I miss anything, staff?
Nope.
Is that a good explanation?
There it is.
All right. Next slide. Or it's not next slide. It's actually, we're going to go into breakout rooms, right?
Yes.
All right. Staff, you know what you have to do. Not now. Wow, that's a good amount of people. Oh, that's nice. That is nice. All right. Look at you, Karina. You everybody got it. Oh, we got a couple of people in the wrong room there.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out.
Juliet Bailey.
I'm gonna go ahead and join room 2.
Yeah, me
that's
too.
my
I'm
joining
joining
so
the
we
pool
can-
room.
Yeah,
Yeah.
are you allowed to choose which room?
Yeah, so
Oh, perfect. So yeah, if you can do that, then
Yeah, I'm gonna join mine too.
Okay,
Yeah.
you guys switch around. Great.
Karina, I should be in one, right?
Yes. you
Yeah.
Celebrated our 29th anniversary with the children. I showed them you and told them all the wonderful work that you did in New York. So I love you and keep doing what you're doing. Yay.
Well, thank you, Angela. Angela's coming to us from Richmond, right, Angela?
I'm from Newport News,
Oh,
Virginia.
Newport News, I'm sorry.
Newport News, Virginia, the port city.
That's right, that's right. Well, welcome, glad to hear from you. Glad that things are going well down there. I hope it's warmer than it is here.
No, all our pipes are frozen and you know, us, we're too city to be country, too country to be city. Ronald Thomas, we just
Hey, Angela, how are
democracy
you?
now. Yay. I
How are
love
you today,
you.
Angela? Hope you're getting warm.
Yay.
Hey,
Hey,
well,
this the A-team, Thomas, right here with anytime Peggy is on board, this is the A-team. You better be ready. Yes. I love you, Miss Peggy.
Thank you, Angela.
You taught me how to pimp this ride. Mhm.
All right.
yeah. We had a good time in the Democracy Fellowship. Yeah.
Yeah. So who's our moderator today?
Hi, I'll be the moderator. Thanks, Peggy. Hi, everyone. I'm Anastasia Gordon. I am the Energy and Transportation Policy Manager at WEACT, work out of the federal office. I also wanted to introduce our intern. So Sarah E., do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you so much. Hi, my name is Sarah E., and I'm the intern for the Federal Policy and Regulation Manager. Nice to meet you guys, and I hope you guys have an amazing year.
Yeah, Happy New Year, everyone. Sarah E. is going to be our note taker for today, and as Peggy mentioned, I'll be facilitating. I do see Sanal. Do you just want to introduce yourself? Well, everybody knows you, but
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Sonal. I'm the Director of Policy at WEACT, so I oversee our city and our state policy work.
excellent. So as Charles mentioned, we'll be brainstorming. We're going to use this tool called Jamboard, and Sarah E. is going to put the link in the chat. But basically, it's a sort of virtual whiteboard that we can brainstorm ideas and once we get to it, put our questions for our newly elected officials. So let's get started. So, okay, I will put the link in the chat, and do let me know if you've seen it, if you see it, if you're having trouble, but we'll do a practice round right now. So go ahead and click that link. It should go straight to our specific virtual whiteboard. So let me know.
Oh, you can see it.
Can we all see it?
Yes.
Excellent. And do you see, oh, yeah. Do you see group 3 to the left, top left of the Jamboard?
Yes.
Excellent. So I see people are figuring it out. I think for our practice, we're going to start with an icebreaker. If you could have lunch with any public figure, who would it be?
Cualquier persona pública, ¿con quién sería?
I think Vincente is in our chat room. I think he's supposed to be in the translator. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Great. All right. So on the left-hand side, you should see a sticky note icon. Let's go ahead and see if we can use this sticky note and type in whoever you would like to have lunch with.
My icon's not there.
And see if we can use this Jamboard feature.
I think also, Anastasia, if there's anyone here that can't be typing right now, they can shout it out and we can add it.
Yes.
Anyone can add it for you.
Thank you for the reminder. Yes, if you can't or are unable, you're unable to use the Jamboard, let us know. Put it in the chat or unmute and you can say, and Sarah E or myself can put it up on the Jamboard.
Martin Luther King.
Hi, Ronald. What did he say, Ronald?
Martin Luther King.
Ah, Martin Luther King. So I'm gonna put that up there for you. Sarah E, can you share your screen? So
Yes, of course.
everyone can see.
Okay.
We have some good ones here. We have Beyonce, excuse me. I put Bob Marley. We have our own Peggy Shepard. Ah, there we go. Thank you, Sarah E. Excellent. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Great. Mahatma Gandhi, good one. Michelle Obama, Maya Adams, yeah. James Baldwin, yeah. I definitely want to meet Harry Belafonte one day. Excellent. So do you think we have a good grasp on how to use Jamboard? Can I get thumbs up?
So,
Yeah, it's pretty easy. And it's a good tool as we transition to thinking about, questions we may have for our new city leaders. So at the very top, there's a right arrow. Sarah, can you go through it? Yes. We will be using this particular whiteboard to sort of brainstorm questions that we may want to ask our new officials, but along the lines of key themes that we are working on. So clean air, climate justice, healthy homes, affordable transportation, clean transportation. So I'm going to get started. For instance, but particularly if you have a specific question for any of our officials that will be joining us in the next half of our meeting, and let me just remind you of their names. We have Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine, Public Advocate Jermaine Williams, Comptroller Brad Lander, Council Members Shauna Brew, Diana Ayala, Kristen Richardson Johnson, and Council Member Carmen De La Rosa. So if you have any specific questions for them, for instance, Diana Ayala, I would like to see more trees along the 125th Street corridor. That's something we can add to the board. So again, use the sticky note icon on the left to add your question in, and we'll take a few minutes. Thank you, Sarah E. Take a few minutes to populate the board right now. So let's get to it. And if, again, as Sonal reminded me, if you can't, or, if you want to speak out loud or put it in the chat, our note taker Siri will also put it on the board.
So Anastasia, are we erasing these or?
We can if it's too cumbersome, but it's just reminders of what to focus on. Do you think that would be useful?
No, I meant, are we going to erase the ones about the people we want to have lunch with?
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I didn't make that clear. So if you, Peggy and others who are having the same issue, if you go to the very top where you see 6 out of 11, use the right arrow.
I'm sorry, where is that?
To the very top.
I see in the middle.
In the middle, and you click the right arrow, you'll see 7 out of 11. And you should see this particular screen where it says, how do you want your elected officials to advance environmental justice in your community?
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Does everyone see it? Or have any questions as well? Feel free to ask.
Mine's just not working for some reason.
Oh, sorry about that, Ronald. How can I help you?
I got to put a question in.
Yes, you can put a question in. Again, if on the very left-hand side, you'll see a sticky note icon right there. Open
Yeah.
it and you can ask your question. For instance, I want to see more trees along the 125th Street corridor, for instance. If you have any specific, great questions. If you have any specific questions for any of our officials, please do mention their names. Hi, Tanya. Yes, so I am going to put the Jamboard link again. We're using Sarah, do you have access to the Jamboard link?
I have the link. I could resend it.
Okay, I think I got it.
Okay.
So Tanya, if you click on that link at the very top, when you get to that link, at the very top in the middle, you'll see 6 out of 11, or out of 12 now. Please use the right arrow to the top middle and go to page 7 out of 12. That's where we're putting our questions to elected officials. Feel free to mention any specific elected representatives. Excellent. So we have some questions coming in. Composting for all, not certain neighborhoods. Thank you, Martha. Great.
Hi, I'm on my mobile. I'm having difficulties navigating to that particular section to put in my question.
Sure, but feel free to let us know right now and we will write it down.
Sure. So my question is, are there any grants for change makers, particularly for like for climate justice initiatives, or anyone involved in those?
Excellent question.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Are there grants for change makers in the climate, in any of the climate initiatives for the city?
Climate initiatives in the city?
Climate, yes.
I believe you said climate justice initiative?
Yeah, yes.
Excellent. Great. Wow, excellent, guys. 125th Street should be bus only. All right, we're seeing some themes about transportation and any climate change grants. Okay, so how do we plan to approach rezoning in the city? Who wrote that particular question? Do you want to elaborate? So how do we plan to approach rezoning in the city and give the need for more affordable housing and equitable development? Thank you, Tanya. Do you wanna elaborate?
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering, I mean, there's been a lot of debate about how rezonings were done under the de Blasio administration, and and with the rezoning of Soho, NoHo, and thinking about upzoning more affluent neighborhoods and not just in lower income communities. So if they're arguing for more affordable housing and equitable development, I'm wondering what strategies then to deal with sort of the rampant rezonings that happened under both Bloomberg and de Blasio. How do
Excellent.
they balance those two? And will it mean that they'll push more for upzoning in wealthier neighborhoods like we've done with Soho and NoHo, where there can be more, more development because there's more land?
Great. Yeah. Excellent. And I believe we have a couple of questions around, you know, rezoning and redistricting. And so we'll be sure to add that to the list of questions to officials. All right, I see some themes around, thank you, Martha. I see some themes around open space and open spaces, and a lot around 125th Street. The person that wrote revitalize the 125th Street transit hub. Can you further elaborate? Can you tell us what exactly, what you'd like to see? What is your specific question? Siri, I see a comment, question in the chat from Marta. What is your position on comprehensive planning framework that will incorporate equitable and sustainable? Yeah. What is your position on comprehensive planning framework that will incorporate equitable and sustainable development? Wow, we're getting a lot of really good questions.
No, we really are. And I think this is so helpful and important to the policy department, because even if, you know, I'm sure there are going to be so many questions from the 5 groups. We're not going to be able to ask all of them, but I think for our policy and organizers on the call, these are questions that we can ensure get answered, you know, over the next few months, and that perhaps we need to place more focus on. So it's really great to hear these ideas from everyone. And I really thank you for engaging on this.
Yes, indeed. We, you know, behind the scenes, we are collating all these questions, and even if we don't get to specific questions that you've asked here, you know, as Peggy mentioned, our policy and organizing teams are gonna send it out to our officials, and they should be able to answer those in the next coming weeks.
Can we have an agency for microgrids and renewable energy?
That's probably the mayor's office. Well, you know, a lot of those activities are spread among agencies, but there is a mayor's office of climate and sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
And they would focus on some of those issues. And then you'll have the Economic Development Corporation and the Department of Environmental Protection, who might have pieces of those, the Department of Buildings, which is focused on local law 97, reducing emissions from buildings. So a lot of the climate and energy policies are distributed among a number of agencies, which is what makes everything so complicated.
I got a question, Ms. Peggy. As we link these port cities together, with y'all leading the way as y'all always have, what organization speaks to exactly what's going on with the United Nations as it relates to us trying to take this thing international and protect the grassroots from poverty pimps coming in with agendas? With us being the environmental justice, and for us, the Southeast Care Coalition, environmental justice don't just mean the natural, it's the political, the cultural, the economical, as well as the spiritual. And so how do we, with y'all leading the way in New York, being the slave port that they like to talk about, which is Ellis Island. Newport News is one of the slave port in California. So with us being over 10 years old in this environmental justice stuff with all these NGOs, green groups and everything, how do we start the conversation with making sure that we teach the role and responsibility of the United Nations as it relates to these port cities when we talk about economic development? We have to teach what these people are doing. That's Civic 101. And so with y'all being in New York, with y'all leading the way, have already won a victory, how do we teach and bring the port cities together?
So the United Nations work is being done, some of it by the Department of State. John Kerry leads the climate negotiations globally, but there is a United Nations representative from the president who carries out our federal policy regarding UN and international affairs. There is an EPA Ports and Terminals coalition, and there is a coalition of EJ advocates who work on ports and terminals around the country. So definitely Dana and the EJ Forum can hook you up with the Ports Coalition of Environmental Justice Groups around the country, and can also let you know when the EPA meetings are around that coalition. So thanks for that question. So Anastasia, where are we now?
Looks like we got a lot of questions. And we still have a couple more minutes until we get back into the room. So if there are any more questions, of course, feel free to add your sticky notes in there. But maybe we can focus on some themes that are coming out here. I see a lot of questions around 125th Street. I see questions about flooding. How will leaders make efforts to address flooding in subway stations? I see questions around food and bodegas and sanitation in general. How about this one? Do you think landlords lead poisoning children due to lack of abating apartments should be considered a public nuisance? Well, yes, but can the person who put that in the chat elaborate a bit more?
Anastasia, that was me. I was putting in something around lead because I hadn't been asked yet, and I think it's really important. And one thing that we are planning to do at We Act is try to make it in the city law, make it a public nuisance if a landlord doesn't abate an apartment and fix the lead issues that they know exist. And the point of that is adding a little bit more teeth behind how a landlord gets in trouble for not doing what they're supposed to do. And it is something that politically is a little tricky because there's a lot of elected representatives out there that don't like to make building owners and landlords too unhappy. So the question is, like, where do the people that are representing us lie on this?
Excellent.
Well, Sonal, isn't it just illegal versus a public nuisance?
Yeah, but the public nuisance, they can actually be tried.
You can sue.
Right now, they're just given fines. And what we found was also that in general, the city is not actually asking for those fines. So not very much is happening in general. So this is kind of making the enforcement a little scarier for them.
Yep, I got it. Thank you.
Great question, Sonal. I see a new question here, policy defrag, holistic planning for clusters like transportation and air quality, absolutely linked. Can that person give us an idea of what they're thinking about and with respect to this question?
That was mine. I saw so many questions about both transportation and air quality. And I have to be honest, I don't live in New York City. I live in Syracuse, New York, where we're trying to take out a highway from the middle of the city. And so these issues are coming up for us. Transportation, land planning, air quality. And I mean, these things can relate to lead. There's many issues. There's lead in soils. But you need a policy platform of some kind.
Yeah, absolutely. We should be thinking more holistically about our land use, transportation planning. You know, at the federal level, there's money coming from the bill, the bipartisan infrastructure bill about, you know, removing some of these highways and you know, major roadways that have, you know, disconnected communities. And of course, transportation is one of the biggest factors in terms of greenhouse gases and air pollution. So yeah, I would love to hear their feedback about how they plan to address both transportation and air quality and land use collectively. I know we've been working on, you know, electric school buses and getting the MTA to transition to electric transit buses, you know, which would be a major win in terms of improving air quality. So definitely an excellent question.
If I could elaborate just a little, that information that you're looking for is up under the Sierra Club information and the data. And if you need help getting it, I would help. This is Angela from Newport News. But if you look at the history of the interstate highway system and read the data, there's conversations that's linking right now the health impact to the interstate highway system and when it was created. And one thing you'll learn about the interstate highway system, it went through every low income community across the country and it displaced a whole lot of people. So there is data already being talked about. It's under the history of the interstate highway system. The Sierra Club has that information on their website. ODU, which is Old Dominion University, Dr. Michelle Colby has that information. You can contact her for the information you're looking for. And you can also contact William and Mary Coastal Policy Clinic. The data and information is also there. And your contact there for that information is Elizabeth Andrews and Angela King. Again, if you need my help navigating so that y'all can have this research paper a phone call away, and I'll make sure that y'all have that data so that you don't have to recreate the wheel and we can work together for the people. One policy, one life, one love.
Awesome. It's great ideas.
Thank you, Angela. All right, Goldstein, I recognize your question in the chat. Do you want to further talk about it and elaborate?
Well, as many of you know, the City Council passed a law that set 2027 as the day for the end of Rikers as a jail. We all know the notorious mistreatment of detainees that's been going on there for years. And there is a vision that the council has in its earliest forms to use Rikers instead of as a notorious center for detainees, to turn it into a place of sustainability and green jobs, and by putting a modern sewage plant there and maybe closing down a couple of the older city sewage plants. The idea of putting solar arrays there and energy storage so that we can close down some of the city's oldest peaker plants that are sending out a lot of pollution, having some modern composting there so that we don't have to send our food waste to the Newark incinerator. And the whole idea is to create green jobs for New Yorkers, and with a focus on maybe helping out some of the folks who have been detained there and subject to abuse and all. So the real question, this is a great plan, but it's not self-enforcing, self-executing, and it would be great to hear from some of the elected officials what they think members of the public could do to help advance that plan over the next year or two. By the way, it's great to just see everyone this morning on a Saturday morning, all coming out to talk about environmental issues in the community and all. Really invigorating. And so Happy New Year to everyone. Wonderful to hear your comments.
Well, thank you, Eric. Thank you for tuning in today.
Yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned that, Eric, I don't know, Sunil, if you don't mind giving us an idea of what's going on with the Renewable Writers Act and that coalition.
Yeah, I think Eric is on top of that if you want to give your updates, Eric. But yeah, I mean, in general, the act was enacted in, was it 2019 or 2020? Now I always mix up those 2 years. I think 2020. The process is that the city or the Department of Corrections is supposed to be handing over land to DCAS, the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, I think every 6 months as it becomes available, meaning as the Department of Corrections slowly closes part of the penal colony and part in the jails on Rikers Island, which is what they're supposed to do regardless of renewable Rikers. And that is supposed to be handed over to the Department of Citywide Administrative Services. The idea behind that is that eventually it'll be something that is not held by the Department of Corrections, that land, meaning it's almost codifying more that Rikers penal colony is closing. So that's the stage that it's in. Studies going on, or I think just starting up, and they're doing recruitment for people to lead the studies on what's feasible to go on that land regarding, with solar, with the sewage treatment plants, with big composting program, whatever it is, the city has to actually study what's feasible there. So Eric, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add there, but that's generally what's going on.
Question, why don't they give it back to the natives, being that they stole it from the natives anyway? Like, why do everybody come together to make up plans and say that they want to make change, but you don't give the land back to the people that you stole it from so that they can themselves do intergenerational wealth without someone or somebody coming in to do a study? And know that all you have to do to empower people is give them their land back. That's native land. So even people coming together to say, we're going to correct this injustice by making another injustice and not empowering future generation of natives, is just rude and disrespectful to even not say, give the land back to the natives. Let's not make another problem when we can empower another generation and realistically allow them to navigate their own future and assist them with resources. But saying we're gonna come in, dictate what's gonna happen, displace these people, and not even consider the natives that you stole the land from, rude, disrespectful, and it ain't no color to that. Rude, disrespectful.
So I think one of the issues that I've heard is that the mayor is concerned about 2 of the jails that are going to be cited in particular communities. I'm not sure if Chinatown is one and Queens is one. I could have that wrong, but I know he's concerned about or listening to advocates in 2 of those communities. And obviously, if those new jails aren't developed, in the local communities, Rikers can't close, at least on the deadline that people are proposing. So I think now with the new administration, we're going to have to see what the mayor's plan is.
Yes, thank you, Peggy and Angela. Tanya? You had
Peggy
your hand
just
raised.
Peggy just answered my question. I was just going to ask about what the status of the plan was to then build a series of smaller jails around the city. Thanks, Peggy.
Thank you.
There might be some legal or lawsuits around some of them. I'm not sure, but there is opposition in some of those neighborhoods. So
Yeah.
I think that'll have to get parsed out with the mayor, and he'll announce what he's going to do.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
So, Anastasia, how did all of these questions get to the moderators for the next session?
Good question. So my colleague LJ is actually behind the scenes working hard to kind of collate these questions and group them in terms of thematic areas. And then he is like compiling that list, and will, in the next half of this meeting, will present them. But I'm not sure if we'll get to all of them, but again, we will make sure that our representatives have these questions so that they can answer it, the questions that they haven't gotten to in the Q&A session in the next hour, that they'll send those answers across, and we'll share it with you all.
Yeah, and maybe in the coming months, we do a town hall with some of them individually, some of the electeds, so that we can get more of these questions out there. I think that would be a good thing to do as well.
Yeah, that's an excellent suggestion.
Yeah.
We have 10 more minutes. I think we can continue elaborating and just talking about some of the themes coming out here. Or if anybody else has a question, or feel free to raise your hand or just unmute yourself and we can discuss.
Well, I see that there's a question about Columbia University, the ongoing question. A lot of you all might have been organizing with us when the Columbia expansion first started underway about 10 years ago. And of course, everyone knows that the Columbia campus in West Harlem is pretty much, it's not finished, but there's certainly 4 or 5 buildings up already. And so they've also started a climate school down at the 116th Street campus. And Columbia has been reaching out to Sonal and I to ask how the climate school could be more helpful to this community. And so I see a question here about Columbia's presence and how we can pressure the university to be a good neighbor and provide more engagement and benefit to the community. So I think that's really a great question. And if any of you have some ideas about how you think the climate school could be
Now, last 25 seconds.
Okay, we only have 25 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right, well, please think about how you think the climate school could be helpful, and you can always shoot anybody at WEACT an email about it if you have some ideas there.
Yeah, that's an excellent question.
Okay, we're
Welcome
almost
back,
getting everyone
everyone.
back, so just give us a little bit more time. Yeah, oh, is everyone back there?
Yeah, we got kicked back.
Yep.
Group 1 got kicked back.
Everyone's back now.
Okay. So I just
Okay.
want to hand it over to Lonnie. Lonnie is our citywide policy person. And we've just give you guys a kind of update. We just put all the members in breakout rooms to talk about questions that they're going to be asking you, so that way they're fully involved in this process, where it's always going to be a grassroots type of process. And Lonnie has a list of questions because he's been monitoring all the rooms. So I'm going to pass this over to Lonnie, and he's going to start the second half of our meeting. Thank you, Lonnie.
Cool. Thank you so much, Charles. So for you guys who don't know me, I haven't seen you guys in person at all, but virtually yet. I'm Lonnie. I also go by LJ. I'm the Environmental Policy and Advocacy Coordinator here at WE ACT. And as Charles mentioned, our members have been coming up with amazing questions digitally for everyone to kind of get an idea of what you guys want to do, what you're looking forward to, and what's going forward in terms of environmental justice, environmental health, and climate. So thank you all for coming. We'll start with there, and congratulations to everybody, because you are now all elected officials. Some of you again, but in a different seat. So we can start with kind of just introducing yourselves, and we'll start citywide. And when you introduce yourself, just give everyone your name, the office that you represent, and we want to know what is your environmental justice policy or policy area you're looking forward to working on. And if we're ready to go ahead and start, we'll kick it off with Comptroller.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Lonnie. Well, how great to see this group of like 125 people getting to work. I mean, Zoom fatigue, COVID fatigue are so real. And I think keeping an eye on the long term on environmental justice, climate justice, environmental health is like so critical. But I think we all feel how hard it is to do. So I just want to give all of you props for organizing and getting right to work this morning. So thank you for all of that. And you've got so many amazing leaders, but of course, when I'm here, I'm always thinking about Cecil, and I just want to, bring his memory into the space with all of us. Like we're fighting this fight for each other and our kids and grandkids, and also the people who led the way, like Cecil Corbin Mark. I am Brad Lander. My pronouns are he and him. I'm thrilled to be your new New York City Controller. The Controller's Office has a great set of tools to work with you guys to fight for environmental justice. So we are working to complete the divestment from fossil fuels of the pension fund portfolio, and then start investing in the transition to clean energy and renewables. And that has to be done in a way that creates good jobs for frontline communities. We're working on a really exciting program called Public Solar NYC that we're hoping to team up with the administration on, to have a city capital financed rooftop solar built on homes and affordable housing throughout the city, with job standards and a preference for hiring people in frontline environmental justice communities. And we want to make the Controller's Office a real hub for focusing on climate issues. So we're working on a dashboard that really looks at a range of things, from compliance with local law 97 to environmental health to pension fund divestment and clean energy reinvestment. And we are excited to work with you on all of it. Public Solar NYC. I'll drop a couple links from documents we put out during the campaign in the chat.
Great, thank you so much. And as people have some questions in the chat, if you want to, you guys feel free to drop down any links that you need to, or kind of any clarifying. But we also have the staff here to help kind of facilitate that as well.
And let me just say what a thrill, in addition to all of you, it is to be on with this amazing other group of elected climate champions. This is really kind of an amazing group at the state and city and borough-wide level. I'm thrilled for all these amazing to get to work with all these amazing partners.
Thank you so much, Comptroller Lander. We're going to take it to Borough President.
Thank you so much, LJ. Thank you, Chuck. I too miss Cecil dearly, especially when we gather like this on Saturday mornings, but really honored to be here with all of you. Great to see you, Brad, and all my fellow colleagues, the birthday boy, my amazing successor in District 7 in the City Council, Councilmember Abreu, and of course, Councilmember De La Rosa, Councilmember Jordan. And I think I saw Senator Jackson on here as well. What a great turnout, reflecting how important WE ACT is for all of us. It was my honor to work with you here in WE ACT over the last 8 years, representing West Harlem, and so grateful that We Act Action was able to support me in my campaign for borough president. And here I am now in the first week in the new job. Couldn't be more excited to be here with all of you. I have identified 3 major long-term priorities for the job of borough president that I think are all directly connected to the mission of We Act, which is public health, climate justice, and equity. Those are, of course, intimately connected, as we know, as we're seeing now in this continued difficult pandemic. And sometimes it is hard to think about the long term when we're still in the peak of the COVID crisis. And maybe if we have time, we'll talk more about that and what we all need to do to get beyond it. But I'm still extremely confident that Manhattan, that New York City is going to come back from this, but we need to do it in a way that fixes so much that was broken about 2019. Citywide and here uptown, there are a number of projects which I look forward to continuing to work with We Act on. We've got and with my successor in District 7, such as revitalizing the Marine Transfer Station off the piers on West 125th Street. Huge potential there for environmental education, for hydroponic farming, and it really could be an engine for revitalization of the community. I'm also looking now with my broader field at the redevelopment of East 125th Street, which I know you've all focused on in the district of Councilmember Ayala. And we've talked about creating a new bid that would build on the development we see coming from expanding the Second Avenue subway, issues I know We Act is very, very engaged on. And then there are the policies that I hope to continue to work with LJ and the We Act team on. We really need to fix and upgrade the way our city organizes cooling centers at a time when, unfortunately, climate change is a growing threat. It needs to be easier to access them. They need to be more equitably located and better communicated to the public. These are issues that Cecil in particular fought for, and I know many of you will as well. And a companion issue of helping low-income homes get access to air conditioning at home, which again, considering the difficult reality of a warming planet is a more urgent cause. So we have a lot to work on together. I'm so excited to partner with all the colleagues on the call and with you, We Act, and really excited for this discussion today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. We are going to move on to our city council representatives. We're going to start with Councilmember Shauna Abreu, the birthday boy. So everyone give their birthday shout outs in the chat as well.
Felicidades. Vamos.
Thank you, everybody. Good morning. I want to start by saying thank you for the warm welcome. I'm here today as a newly inaugurated member of the City Council, in no small part because of We Act support, for which I am eternally grateful. I've known for a while that we share an urgency to tackle environmental issues, and especially environmental issues of justice. The challenges we face have never been greater. With these issues, we are truly confronting the fierce urgency of now. As you know, more than a century of environmental injustice in the city has compounded to especially Black and Brown communities. Pollutants are blanketing our communities of color. Toxins like lead are disproportionately in the walls of school districts of color, and access to sustainable resources like healthy food, clean energy, and accessible infrastructure is missing from many of our neighborhoods. Pollutants, toxins, and access. These are problems we face, and I'm here today to talk about how we can take them on in the City Council. Green governance starts with successfully implementing existing law, especially the Climate Mobilization Act, right? We have to make sure that we are monitoring its implementation to make sure that all new large developments in New York City meet carbon standards. Thank you to the council members before us, Mark Levine and Brad Lander, for making this historic win. And I want to provide resources for public housing buildings like NYCHA to match these standards as well. On top of that, NYCHA, affordable housing, and HDFC co-op buildings, as we know, are exempt from the Climate Mobilization Act. And we need to make sure that we're making resources available to them to install renewable resources like solar panels. When we invest in renewable energy, we're not only investing in a cleaner future, but also a more affordable one. Unfortunately, we have consistently let down communities with lead and other toxins in their walls and water. I want to wield city government in a way that prioritizes underserved and ignored communities. We can strengthen local law 1 of 2004, the lead paint law, by funding more audits and inspections by Department of Housing, Preservation and Development. I know that this is something that WEAC strongly supports. In fact, they made it to my website because you brought it to my attention. And we can make our school facilities safer through capital investments and support access to local healthy products by funding hydroponic labs and urban farms, as Mark mentioned. And if New York City doesn't lead on these issues, I don't know who will. The truth is, these issues are incredibly local as well. You know, I would like to work with our partners at the state level and with Manhattan Borough President Levine by, you know, making sure that we're bringing an ADA accessible elevator to the 125th Street subway stop. We will encourage public transportation that way and hopefully reduce our reliance on, you know, on cars. If we fully electrify the MTA bus system, we will have more environmentally and community friendly transportation. I heard in the local rooms as well that we need more composting sites. And I agree, we should have them not only on the Upper West Side, but above 125th Street. And that's something that I'm gonna work with our Manhattan Borough President to achieve. And as Mark said as well, we need to bring more cooling centers during the summer, especially when the weather gets warm and in light of climate change. We face some steep obstacles tackling pollutants, toxins, and axes in our city. It will not be easy, but we have one of the most exciting new council in recent history, like a Carmen De La Rosa, for instance, who has been a champion for WEAC for many years. And I know that she's gonna be a strong partner in our efforts, especially with WEAC's guidance and support. I'm really eager to get started, and I can't understate that. I'm very fortunate to be in this position, and I find this job very exciting, and I'm just so fortunate to serve, and I'm glad I get to do that with you. I'm very thankful to be with you here today. I'm happy to take any questions later on.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Abreu. We're glad to have you. And again, happy birthday. And then we're going to go to Councilmember De La Rosa.
Well, thank you all for having me here. Happy Saturday. Happy birthday, Sean. And it's so exciting to see my colleagues here this morning and to be able to take this time in the new year to really center our priorities. I want to thank WEAC for bringing us together as usual and embodying the spirit of my good friend Cecil Corbin Marks, who was one of my first friends in politics. When I began my career working for Danny O'Donnell in 2007, you know, he really was a light, bright star that guided us. And I want to just uplift him in every opportunity. And I really want to thank WEAC for the support during the tumultuous primary and campaign season. WEAC really did put it on the line for a lot of us, and we are grateful, not only for that support, but for the ability to plan together. I'm Carmen De La Rosa. I'm now the city councilwoman for District 10, Washington Heights, Inwood, and Marble Hill. And as always, I like to say that the struggles of the Harlem community, the Washington Heights community, Uptown community is one struggle. And I like to center communities that have been left behind by government. It is what inspired me to run for office when I ran for the assembly. And it is the driving force that keeps me up at night when we think about the things we need to do for our communities. You know, I think that it's imperative now, as the new administration comes in, the new council is getting started, for us to recognize and call out the climate crisis that we're currently living in. Our policies have to match our words when it comes to making sure that we are making changes, but we also have to celebrate what WEAC and other members of the Environmental Justice Coalition have already done. We like to say that there is no racial justice without environmental justice, right? And WEAC has been at the forefront of passing things like Local Law 97, which I had the honor as a state assemblywoman to uplift and protect during the budget negotiations in Albany. I know Senator Robert Jackson is on the call as well. He passed also the constitutional amendment calling for the right to clean air and water. And we also know that renewable Rikers has been something that the WEAC community has been working on, something that I fully support and look forward to seeing come to fruition. I know that in my own district, WEAC has been hard at work with the residents of NYCHA, Dyckman Houses in particular, uplifting their issues as well. So I want to just emphasize that I'm going to continue to support those efforts, and I look forward to working with you all as we move forward. I see that Steve Simon is on the call. He's our health chair at Community Board 12. I want to give him a shout out. Environmental justice and health go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. And so I look forward to working with him and other leaders in that realm to make sure that we're uplifting things like food insecurity, access to healthcare in our communities, and especially now with COVID-19. I mean, all of the issues that historically have plagued our community are exacerbated. I publicly supported gas-free NYC legislation, and I'm happy that we were able to get that done. Now we have to see it implemented and rolled out in a way that is empowering for our communities. We also have talked about the principles of co-governance as a central piece of our campaign. And I want to talk a little bit about what I plan to do as a council member is actually develop committees that are made up of residents of our district, residents of our communities. One of those committees is going to be focused on sanitation and waste management. I think all of us across the board, if you were campaigning, you heard about how dirty, how unhygienic our streets are, about the illegal dumping that occurs in our communities. And I think it is past due time for us to actually have a sanitation and waste management plan in Northern Manhattan. I look forward to working with our borough president who's here and my colleagues to get that done. I know that Councilwoman Kristen Richardson Jordan was on the call, and I hope she'll be back. I look forward to working with her as well and connecting our communities. We need to fight for a zero waste policy in our city. And I look forward to just making sure that we continue to work so that, oh, she's back, good. I look forward to continuing to work so that our communities are connected in this planning process. So thank you, WEAC, for having me. And I look forward to engaging in these conversations with your members.
Thank you so much, Councilmember De La Rosa. And Councilmember Kristen Richardson Jordan's back. I was just gonna say we lost you for a second, but we were gonna give you a chance to introduce yourself, let us know what district you represent and what kind of environmental justice and policy areas that you're interested in working in. May have frozen.
Yeah, hi. I'm sorry. Oh, wait, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, I really apologize. We're literally in a new office and it's been 2 days and we're still setting it all up. But I think one of the things that I have to offer is a fresh perspective and a new voice. I certainly don't have an environmental expertise, and so I'm very excited to work with organizations like WEACT and with various advocates to get the expertise. I'm actually also looking to hire an environmental justice advocate for our office. So if anyone knows someone who would be a good fit for that, please encourage them to send their resume to us. It's kristenforharlem@gmail.com, and I'll put that in the chat as well. We are similar to Carmen, so I love that this is happening, you know, in joint districts. We are setting up task forces for different areas of my Harlem policy platform, and one of them was environmental justice, and we are looking to start up a task force for that. There's a whole plan of justice proposals that I have, but the thing I'm focused on right now is really the fairly unglamorous work of the trash pickup. So I do hope to partner with Carmen on that. I'm very excited that even before getting into office, I was able to negotiate 32 trash cans for our district with Department of Sanitation. And those cans were added along Lenox Avenue and along 7th Avenue. And that was me just speaking from the heart about how some of our trash cans have been removed and how we lack just the basic necessity of rat protected cans in this district and in some of the neighboring districts as well. So I'm looking forward to continuing that advocacy. It's small, but not small, because I think it impacts our psychology, impacts our environment, impacts our imprint to address the trash in that way. I also think that as an organizer, I have some new things to offer, particularly in how we can challenge some of the businesses, particularly chains, to participate. I think, you know, the thing about being socialist, and it's certainly okay if you're not, but the thing about me being a socialist legislator is you're profiting exponentially. What can you do to contribute to the environment and the trash pickup and the cleanup needed in our community as well? So I'm having those conversations with businesses as well.
Great, thank you so much, Councilmember Richardson Jordan. I'm so glad all of you are here. We can dive right into this. Again, congratulations to all of you for winning your seats, and also just thank you so much for being here. You guys had your first weeks in your positions, and you guys are here with us in WEACT, and we really do appreciate that. And we want to dive right into these questions. What I'm going to do is I've compiled a lot of the questions that were asked by our members. I'm going to go ahead and I'll throw the question out there to a specific person, and then there might be an opportunity, depending on the question, for someone else to respond. Just kind of keep your answers thoughtful but succinct as well, because we have a lot of things that we want to talk about, and you guys did already touch on a lot of things that our members are excited to talk about. And for the members, if you don't hear the question that you want to be asked, what we're going to do is we're going to compile all your questions, and we are going to actually send out to you guys offices as well for you to review what questions were asked and find a way to maybe get some responses from you, so we can let our members know what you were thinking on some of the things that they didn't get a chance to hear about. So if that sounds good, ready to start with the questions? Good to go. So we're going to start kind of higher level here. And we talked about, you guys already mentioned Local Law 97. And for our members who don't know, that Local Law 97 in 2019, it mandates that buildings larger than 25,000 square feet have to cut their emissions 40% by 2030 and 80% by 2050. I'm going to start this question off and kick it to our comptroller, Brad Lander. And the question is, what role does your office play in ensuring that communities of color and low-income communities that have borne the brunt of air pollution and disinvestment are prioritizing the implementation of decarbonization policy while preventing displacement after these investments are made?
That's a great question, Lonnie. Thank you. Local Law 97, the Climate Mobilization Act, requires buildings over 25,000 square feet to retrofit for energy efficiency and fossil fuel footprint reduction, with big ambitious targets at both 2030 and 2050. It's the biggest thing that we can do, both to do our share for reducing emissions, but also to improve air quality and environmental health in New York City. So I was proud to be, an early co-sponsor. Costa Constantinides was the lead sponsor. And now we've got several things we have to do together, both to make sure it gets implemented and to make sure it gets implemented with fidelity to EJ principles. So first, I just want to say, I'm expecting some attacks, like some efforts to weaken it. I do think that there are, the real estate community would like to weaken the law. It's no secret. I actually opposed one change to do so. They got one little weakening around fuel cells. I voted no on that, but I think more is coming. So one, I want to work with you and see those things coming, make sure we provide the data and the information on what the impact is and show that, the law is developed and written in a way that really enforces it. So protect the law as it is. Particularly for residential buildings, we did some work with the state legislature to make sure that it is implemented in a way that protects tenants, and the costs of any improvements can't be passed on to tenants as major capital improvements. So I'm glad to work with you to audit to make sure that that actually works that way, that the costs are not passed on to any tenants, and that people keep their rent stabilized rents without major capital improvements. Let's remember, these improvements save money for the building owner in the long term. So, and then third, I really want to implement a tracking and compliance system, part of that climate dashboard I mentioned. I want to work with you guys on. This is the kind of thing, because it's got long-term goals, that if we're not setting up a step-by-step, more interim, see it in real time tracking system, we're going to get to 2029 and people aren't going to have met their obligations. And we're going to be like, what happened? So that's like an audit function of the controller's office. And I want to make sure that we're doing it together. And then finally, I mentioned that public solar NYC. The idea there is to target the opportunity for city finance solar specifically to HDFCs, to affordable housing co-ops, to low-income homeowners, to the kinds of buildings that would benefit from rooftop solar, but don't have the capital to do it on their own or the wherewithal to do it on. So this new entity, city control 501c3, Public Solar NYC, would come to you and say, we will finance, permit, install, own, share the benefits of that energy with you, and expand solar, both create a lot of good jobs for folks in frontline communities, but also expand solar, especially to people who need it, for whom the air quality benefits of conversion are big, but who might not be able to afford it otherwise.
Thank you. That sounds great. And yes, WEACT is always looking forward to working on those with you. And you will all see my face and hear my name and see my email 101 times from now until like probably next week. So I will be following up a lot of you with a lot of things.
Let's be clear, we really need that. And I just want to say, like, you have climate champions on this call and we all want to be your allies, but your role in like pushing us also is absolutely critical. We just, even those of us that think of ourselves as allies, we're never doing enough on this. So like, you are doing us a favor and helping us live up to the values that matter the most, with precisely that hard pushing, even of good friends.
Thank you. I wanted to acknowledge that we have Public Advocate Jemani Williams here. So if you wanted to take a second to introduce yourself to our membership, and then we're kind of just going through some of the questions that our members have, and I can cook a question to you immediately after you've introduced yourself.
Peace and blessings, everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Glad to be here with all of my colleagues and following the newly elected comptroller of the city of New York. It's my pleasure to be here, and thanks, folks. Folks may not know, this is actually my first term as public advocate. I've been here. I think I have a outsized impact, especially the past couple of years, but this is my first full term, so I appreciate the support that folks have. Good to be with all of my colleagues, I see council members on here as well. I don't see everybody. Of course, climate, not climate change, what's actually happening right now is very big, and it is a equity and racial justice issue. And I know Greta gets a lot of attention, but there's a lot of folks who've been working on these issues with melanin in their skin for a very long time. And so I'm very proud to be here. My office has worked with WEACT on a number of issues. And I'm very excited that, of course, we got the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act passed. But sadly, I haven't heard much talk about, even in the state of the state, about how we're going to fund it. And so we have to make sure that we get the Climate and Community Investment Act passed. And there's a whole bunch of other issues that we have to get done, including reconciling the bill, as well as money bills, including a bipartisan infrastructure package. I know we're working on the Justice 40 initiative, trying to figure out what we're going to do with the Rikers areas after it's closed. And I'm looking forward to working and continue that conversation with WEACT. But I'll pause there, because if there's questions, I'm happy to use up the time answering the question.
Yeah, you can. We can go ahead and ask you what kind of what specific environmental justice policy areas you're looking forward to working on, and how does your office actually engage in that work?
Well, thankfully, many folks in WEACT know much about us, because we've been involved in a lot of different issues. As I mentioned, Justice 40 initiative calling for the state to invest 40% of all the benefits of federal investments to disadvantaged and under-resourced communities. We know 40% is really a baseline, and we can do even better than that. Getting a better allocation of federal dollars in the Reconciliation Act as the bipartisan infrastructure package in New York City. We'll continue to advocate for equitable distribution of funds. We're exploring and supporting any actions that will help all levels of government create a multi-pollutant power plant standard that can put an end to the greenhouse gas emissions. We know that indigenous populations, people of low-income groups, people of more color have always been disproportionately impacted by these facilities built in their communities. We know with the hopefully expedited closure of Rikers, we can figure out how to do a renewable Rikers on that land. We know many people may not realize that there's some bills in Albany to ban the use of mercury in things like skin lightening products, which sadly communities of more color, particularly Black communities, use a lot to lighten their skin, which is a whole nother conversation that we can have, but at least we can take out the mercury in those products. And we still have a lot of work to do around lead, believe it or not just in places like NYCHA, but in the drinking water of our schools and the other harmful chemicals that are there. So our office has been here working on these issues. We have a deputy public advocate that works on this stuff, Kashif Hussain. Not sure if he's on now because I can't see everybody. Steve Fox is our community organizer who works on these issues as well, who may or may not be on this call as well. So we're really dedicated to this.
Thank you. We do look forward to working with your office on all of those issues because we've already talked in a conversation before as well. So look forward to continuing that conversation. I'm gonna kick some questions to our council members on here, and we'll kind of start and we'll kind of get on the street here, street level. And one thing that people are very concerned about is kind of the sanitation, waste, and cleanliness of the streets. So, neighborhoods and majority Black and Latinx populations have some of the dirtiest blocks in New York City, and they're just littered with animal waste and litter and overthrowing trash bins. So my question, I'm going to start with Councilmember De La Rosa. What is the key thing that needs to be addressed when it comes to sanitation and waste? And how do you plan on engaging your colleagues on this call in the mayor's office to tackle this issue?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing, well, first of all, let me say hi to Jumani. Hi, public advocate. How are you? It's good to see you. I think the first thing is equity, right? I think the borough president brought that up. Not all communities, unfortunately, have been giving the same attention when it comes to sanitation. Upper Manhattan is a community that doesn't have the resources to hire a private sanitation company to come in and pick up our garbage. So we need to address that. We need to address the inequities that exist. When we make, for example, a 65% cut across the board on sanitation services, not all communities are impacted the same way. So when we look at budget negotiations, when we look at programs to eliminate the gap, right, so that we have cuts, we have to look at how that affects communities across the board and communities of color. We should not have a community like ours bearing the brunt for sanitation services. As a council member, I'm also able, through discretionary funding, capital funding, invest in our communities through initiatives like the Clean Streets initiatives, through local organizations that can help not substitute sanitation services, but make sure that we're augmenting sanitation services on the ground. That is something that I'm fully committed to. And also, in Northern Manhattan, in my district, for example, and I know that now Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso talked a lot about this. The way that sanitation services and sanitation trucks, for example, drive through our communities. In Northern Manhattan, we have a depot in my district, and we are bearing the brunt of having, like Sean was mentioning, trucks that are not electrified, that are running through our communities, exacerbating things like asthma and respiratory illnesses. So for me, it's about bringing stakeholders to the table. People who are working on the ground in our community, like we must be at that decision-making table when it comes to the policies that are being passed at the council, but also the budget decisions that are being made. As I mentioned, we are going to be starting a sanitation task force. That's going to be so that we can have a plan for our own community that we drive and that will drive the policy decisions that we make at City Hall. So I'm looking forward to it. It's a lot of work. I saw that one of my constituents also mentioned the rats. I want to emphasize that I have to run away every time I see a giant rat, just run out of the garbage. The way that we hold garbage on the street has to change. We can look at what other cities are doing to implement bins that are, deter rats and other rodents from, digging in our garbage. And so we have to start thinking outside the box and looking at what have worked in other big cities so that we can be on the ball when it comes to solid waste and sanitation services.
Thank you. Councilmember Brea, do you want to add anything to that regarding waste and sanitation?
Briefly, I will. You know, to Carmen's point, right? We've seen a lot of the waste baskets in our district have too much garbage in it. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that there aren't enough bins, right? And so we talk about folks littering, but folks don't have nowhere to throw out their garbage, right? That's a problem. So we have to increase waste baskets. The infestation of rats, I think, is probably one of the biggest issues in our districts, and has to do a lot with waste, especially. I'm looking forward to finding, ethical ways to reduce our rat infestation presence in our district. And I think there's an appetite there to do that with our next mayor. But yeah, I also look forward to working, very hard with Carmen to make sure we see equity in the way the sanitation services are funded. The truth is, when you look at places in other parts of our city that can do with less and other neighborhoods could do a lot better with more, we have to make these tough decisions. And that's something that I'm looking forward to bringing forward.
Great, thank you so much for that. Keeping that kind of theme with streets at the kind of high level citywide, we're gonna, there are a lot of concerns about schools and just public schools, and not only just the safety during the COVID pandemic, but the fact that there are, upgrades that are needed for our schools. If you guys don't know, that public schools are among the worst climate polluters and the largest emitters of greenhouse gas in the city. So I'm going to start with the borough president. Do you have a plan, or what is your plan for making public schools greener and healthier?
Well, thank you so much, LJ, for focusing on this issue for years here in WEAC. If I could just add one more point on the very important topic of sanitation, which my colleague spoke really powerfully on. This is an example of the dangers of ignoring this pandemic, which has now led to over 20% of sanitation workers being off the job because they are calling in sick with COVID. And while thankfully most of those cases aren't landing the workers in the hospital, it's seriously impacting the collection of waste in our neighborhoods. Now in Midtown, they have bids and other infrastructure that can help shield them from the loss of the public service. And uptown, we just don't have that. And so there's also a real equity implication there. Just a reminder of why we have to take this pandemic seriously. On the school front, there are huge opportunities both to make our school buildings more green. These are very old, outdated buildings. It's not that long ago that a number of buildings still had coal-fired furnaces. It's really only been probably in the last 20 years that we've phased them out. But few have more efficient technology for heating and other energy use. There's also a huge opportunity to turn our buildings into places that can educate children on environmental resiliency, on sustainable food. There's no reason we couldn't turn every school roof into a place for sustainable urban farming so that kids can grow and prepare and ultimately even eat fresh food that they grow themselves. That changes kids' lives when they put their fingers into dirt and bring to life a living organism. It changes their career paths. It changes their relationship to food. We should be doing that in every school building. And we need to green our school bus fleet as well. There are proposals to electrify that fleet, which also would have a huge environmental benefit. So let's look at our school system as a way to educate and a way to implement good climate justice change. Thank you, WEAC, for leading on this issue.
You. Yes, well, one of our great wins last year was Intro 455 with the electric school bus mandate. So we were definitely excited about that, getting that going. Welcome back, Councilmember Jordan. Let me go ahead.
Sorry, my internet just keeps going in and out, and I think it's just because it's new and we have to check it out. I was here though, and I did really appreciate the comments from both Carmen and Sean about sanitation. And I just wanted to throw out that
Oh no. I think we lost you again.
I'm actually doing an
I thought you-
Insta Live.
oh,
I do
I'm
a
frozen.
Insta Live with a animal rights. Oh, can you hear me?
We can now. We missed a little bit of that.
Oh, I was just saying that I'm doing an Insta Live this Tuesday around the issue of rat control with an animal rights activist and from Voters for Animal Rights. And I think there's some very great ways to look at how we solve this issue by lessening the rat's food supply and really like it's more effective. It's a more humane thing to do, but it's also more effective in terms of rat control. And that's this Tuesday at 6 p.m. on my Insta. So if anyone wants to check that out.
Thank you. Yeah, be sure to drop that in chat, and if any WEAC staff can also reiterate that. Since we know that you're having a little bit of issues with your internet, I want to go ahead and give you a question. That way we can make sure we hear from you a little bit more. This is something that's been on our members' minds, and I know that you know a lot about it, can speak to it. But can you briefly speak about to the members about your Harlem Not for Sale initiative and what plans you have to prevent displacement in low-income individuals and people of color communities?
Yeah, so this is coming from a ULURP that is rolling down the pike. I'm very excited that Community Board 10 just voted this down unanimously. But what it is there's a development, it's the 145 project. It's on 145th and Lenox. It's going to have over 600 market rate and even the tittling bit that is supposedly affordable is not affordable by income standards in our community. They are working with MIH, which is not an accurate measurement of the income levels of Central Harlem. And it's going to cause a lot of displacement. It's going to affect our Black plurality in Central Harlem. We've been reacting to the effects of gentrification. For those who know, in the last census, we lost 10,000 Black residents of Central Harlem. And they didn't leave willingly, they were displaced. And it is projects like this that we have to address. So it's really socially irresponsible. We have to stop it. And I will also say that this particular developer has acted in bad faith several times, including in conversations with me and conversations with Community Board 10. So the next stop is Mark Levine. So I mean, I urge you to do a recommendation no vote on this. And I really hope to have some of the support from Sean, from Carmen, and from fellow city council members, because it's very disrespectful what this developer is trying to do, and it will be damaging to our community. And that is not to say that there isn't routes to have development where we can work on housing crisis, but it has to be very intentional. And it can't cause displacement. Oh, name of the developer is Bruce Teitelbaum. The project is called 145. I don't know the exact address, but it is taking up 5 lots right on 145th and Lenox. There was really detailed review of it in the patch by Nick Garber in Harlem Patch, and that breaks down all the numbers.
Great. Thank you so much. I wanted to make sure you got an opportunity to speak on that because I know that was something the members were concerned about in general. And a lot of times when we do the work that we do, even in the space of environmental justice and we talk about retrofits and improving schools and streets and waste, one of the concerns is always going to be displacement. Did Public Advocate Williams, did you want to respond to anything regarding displacement in communities?
Oh, we also, my office has done a lot of work around, we actually put out a report on MIH to really show how bad MIH has been. I was one of, I think, maybe 4 council members who voted against MIH. I think when it came out, precisely for the reason that the council member just mentioned, it didn't really address it. The best option, they had different options, was actually option one, and even that option doesn't really do everything that we needed to do. And the things that they call "quote unquote" affordable aren't really affordable at all. So I've actually tried to change the name and not talk about affordable housing, but talk about income-based affordable housing, because that's really where the issues are. I've said that we primarily probably really need to stop, put a moratorium on most of the rezonings until we redo the failure of MIH. But we have to also remember there is a lot of development and things that go on even without the MIH that's problematic. So we definitely support rethinking how we're building, what we're building, who we're giving money to. The biggest population of people who need the housing are actually getting the least. And so that's a problem. I'm hoping this new administration really rethinks it.
Thank you. And we all look forward to working with you on that issue as well. What I want to do is, because we only have 10 minutes left, even though this is super exciting, and hopefully we'll be able to all do this again at some point. There are so many other questions that we could ask in direct, but I do want to take the last kind of a bit of our time and just kind of go around to each of you and give you about 3 minutes each to just kind of go over 2 things that you're really looking forward to do in your first time, like 100 days of the year. I think that's something that people want to hear and want to know about. We can start with Councilmember Abreu.
That's a good question. There's a lot, right? But we have to narrow them down. One of the few things I'm really excited about is bringing hydroponics and urban farms to a lot of the schools in our districts that don't have it. For me, it's very important to have access to green, for kids to have a green building environment, but also have access to food security and begin these practices at an early age. So for me, that's very high on my agenda. And so that's my number one issue I like to tackle this year. But that's something we could just do with capital allocations and also working with our mayor's office and our speaker for speaker initiative funding, but the mayor can also allocate funding as well. In terms of legislation, I do want to follow through on local law 1 of 2004 to strengthen the enforcement of our lead paint laws, especially in public housing. And that's something I would like to be working with you.
Thank you.
Among other things.
Oh, we'll work on all the things. We are all going to work on all the things. Same question to Councilmember Kristen and Richard Jordan. What do you want to accomplish kind of in this first 100 days?
So one of the things we're looking at right off the bat is as I mentioned before, getting more trash cans. It sounds small, but it's so important. And getting the rat protected cans. We have a lot of the wire cans in Central Harlem that feed the rats, and the wind comes and it blows all on the street, and it's just a real sanitation problem. That's something I think achievable. We also are working with the young man in district to build up a program for young men in the district to do trash collection and trash pickups. He wants to call it sweep the streets before they sweep you. And the idea is that we help clean the streets as a way to prevent crime, get our young men involved in the community, and also environmental justice all at the same time, in a hyper local way. So really much focused on District 9.
Great, thank you for that. And then Councilmember De La Rosa.
Yep. Again, right on time on the chat over here, the Inwood rezoning. So, and piggybacking on what our colleague said in the last conversation, I'm laser focused at looking at the investments that were promised to Inwood in the Inwood rezoning that was passed in the last term, and seeing how we can really undo some of the harms that were baked into that plan. So I'll be looking at that plan very closely. and looking at community land trusts as a model. So I'm going to start those conversations. And that also piggybacks on the displacement scenario that's happening in my community. I also, like I said, want to build this sanitation plan for Northern Manhattan. We actually were able to negotiate with sanitation services some new baskets. So we will be putting out a community survey this week as to where they're most needed. I'm sure we're gonna generate a big list, and the promise is that we're gonna put those baskets down this month, and then continue on going forward in a strategic way. So those are the two things I'll be focusing on amongst many things.
Thank you. And then we're going to go to Borough President Mark Levine.
Thank you so much, LJ. We're going to be focusing first on this pandemic, which continues to rage. We haven't had a chance to talk too much about it, but it is disproportionately impacting Uptown Manhattan, where we're seeing positivity rates passing 40% some days, which is a previously unthinkable number. I want to shout out the public advocate, Jumaane Williams, who has been an amazing voice throughout this pandemic, speaking up for science and equity. And we've done a lot of good work together on this and we're going to continue to. We have already begun to connect people uptown to the resources that they need in this pandemic. We opened a testing site out front of our Northern Manhattan office on 125th Street between Morningside and Amsterdam. It's open every day, Monday through Friday, 9 to 2, come on by. It's free, doesn't matter if you have insurance or not. So we had a really busy few days this week when we opened it, and we hope you'll spread the word. We've also now secured several thousand rapid home test kits that have been extremely difficult to access. For people who have money, I guess they can go online and buy them. They're expensive, or they can hop around to pharmacies where you have to pay $25 or more for a pack of 2. So we've secured them for free, and we're working with CBOs and local electeds to distribute them where they're needed. Again, prioritizing equity in our borough. And then I'm continuing to push good policy together, not just with Public Advocate Williams, but also Comptroller Lander, to remind the public that this is still a time for caution, that we need to do better to ensure our schools have the resources they need to keep kids safe, with more testing, better access to masks, et cetera. So there's a lot to say on this topic, obviously going to be a priority for me in the first 100 days. We also are entering budget season in New York City, and the borough president has significant capital budget. And we are going to be focusing a significant chunk of our capital dollars on resiliency projects in Manhattan, including in schools, by the way. So thank you, UAC, for that. But also almost any aspect of our infrastructure can be made more resilient. Street trees, for example, which is going to be a major priority for us, have the ability to absorb significant amounts of runoff if they have what's called a bioswale underneath. This too is an equity issue, because data shows that there are far fewer street trees in communities with color in New York City. And research shows that the lack of street trees impacts air quality. It impacts the heat of the neighborhood. Actually, street trees can lower the heat, lower the temperature of an urban neighborhood. And as I mentioned, it also can impact flooding, which we've seen quite painfully in Uptown Manhattan over the summer, where we had major storms and really life-threatening levels of flooding, even in Uptown. So we're going to be using our capital dollars to push resilient infrastructure Uptown and beyond. And excited to get input from WEACT on how we should focus that. So I guess this is where I say thank you for having me. It's really been an excellent conversation. Looking forward to working with all of you in the years ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate it, and all the efforts and work you've been doing with COVID-19. I know it's not easy for all of you to kind of come into this space and have to add that on to everything that you guys want to do as well. Comptroller Brad Lander.
Thank you so much. This has really just been a joy. I mean, what an amazing set of council members here. Happy birthday, Sean and Carmen and KRJ. Just like so excited to work with you guys on these issues. And of course, to continue the work with our public advocate and our great new borough president. It really is an amazing team. And Mark, we all just thank you so much for the public health information and advocacy and champion work that you have done during this pandemic. It has just been irreplaceable. Let's see, I talked a lot about climate, but I'm going to keep talking a lot about climate because the Comptroller's Office has the responsibility of taking the long-term view on our city, our bonds, our retirement security, thinking out decades. And that's just hard to do in our politics because every day you wake up to headlines and it is hard to stay focused on climate, even though like the climate crisis is not coming in a couple of decades. The climate crisis is right here, right now. And we know from the COVID crisis what happens when you don't prepare, and that frontline communities, communities of color, low-income people pay the price the most. So we're going to keep that just top of line. Get the divestment done. I actually went to a meeting of the Teachers Pension Fund this week and took a vote to move to the next step in completing their divestment from fossil fuels. We'll have a lot more to say in coming days about how we can invest in a just transition. Moving forward, that public solar project I've mentioned a couple of times. And the climate dashboard, the idea is not just to create something on the internet that people can interact with and say, how's Climate Mobilization Act implementation going, but that we use together as a tool, you know, the kind of accountability we need in terms of sustainability and resiliency audits of our budget, our contracts, our agencies. It has to be done together. So we'll do a lot of the work, of course, with our auditors, but it has to be a partnership with communities and shared accountability on climate. We'll be working aggressively on an inclusive COVID recovery, working with Mark and Jumani, but also really focused on the economic questions of how the communities that were hardest hit in the pandemic can be centered as we focus on small business reopening and support, as we think about what the shift to more remote work means in a post-pandemic world. How do we support low-income people and communities in that work? The Comptroller's got a lot to do just to make government work better. You know, some people would tell you that effective government and bold progressive government are in conflict, but we know they are mutually essential. We got to have government that works well, that people believe in, that delivers on its promises, if it's going to provide the bold progressive leadership we need to protect us from the climate crisis and bring real progress on racial equity and democracy. And then finally, because it really is a 100 days thing, and I know people on this call are really rightly focused on housing affordability and being able to stay in neighborhoods and not displaced from them. We actually just worked with CUNY on a big survey of how people are feeling in their neighborhoods. And it's no surprise to you that the cost of living and housing affordability and fears of displacement are #1 above public safety, even above the pandemic, as something people want to see from government. So the thing I'm going to do in the first 100 days is that in June, the boondoggle of a tax break program called 421A, a $1.7 billion giveaway to for-profit private developers for a pittance of affordable housing, is set to expire in Albany, and we should let it expire. Now, the governor did say, you know, called out that program, but what we've seen in the past is they say they ended it, but they just tweak it and rename it something different. So that is not what we mean. We mean end the 421A program. And we do need comprehensive property tax reform because we have an unequal property tax system, and we need to balance rentals and condos. You should, you know, it shouldn't be the case that a condo gets more favorable tax treatment than a rental, and that does happen now. So let's fix that, along with the fact that right now, a home like mine in Park Slope is actually undertaxed relative to homes in Southeast Queens or the Bronx. So we should fix that. But not just warm over 421A. And then instead of that, what we should do, and this really goes to what Carmen and several others have spoken about, is invest our affordable housing subsidy and tax break dollars in what I broadly refer to as social housing, in community land trusts, limited equity co-ops, community-controlled nonprofit rentals that expand the footprint of affordability that isn't open to speculative loss in the marketplace. I'm going to drop our social housing plan in the chat, but the first step is really to make sure that we get rid of 421A so we can move toward a better vision of what genuine affordability should be.
Thank you for that. You got some testifying people in the in the chat with that. And the final word, I'm gonna go ahead to PA Jumaane Williams.
Well, thank you. It's really hard to top that, so I'm not going to try. But
usually I have to follow Jumaane, and I got to say that's the best. It's better for me when I could go ahead of it.
But as someone who agrees, we simply have to crumple up 420 and throw it in the garbage. Thank you for raising that, and having been one of, I believe, 4 council members who sued former mayor trying to get those taxes done. Thank you for raising that. If you're not following Mark Levine's Twitter, you're missing the real conversation around COVID. So make sure you go ahead and follow him. I'm looking forward to working with all of my colleagues. And I'm sorry, I can't see everybody, but I see Councilmember Carmen De La Rosa and Councilmember Sean Abreu. Is it your birthday?
It is my birthday. Thank you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you, Jumaane.
No problem, man. Of course, Councilmember.
You can sing. I know you can sing, man.
I can hold a note. I'm not sure if it's singing, but I can hold a note. And of course, Councilmember Jordan and LJ and WEAC. I have some other endeavors that I can't talk about here, so I'll be, working on a lot of those issues there as well. And they really fall in the buckets that were mentioned here, not just climate change. Public safety is a huge one for me. I've been a leading voice in that issue for a really long time. I started as a community organizer, tenant organizer. It was before Barack Obama, so a lot of folks had no idea what it was. And I told my mother I had to convince her that it was actually a real job. But housing is just still a huge issue, and a transformative economy. And I will just end it by saying, because a lot of things have already been said, but for me, the overarching vision is that we can't return to normal. So I'm getting tired of people saying that we're going to work hard to return to normal. Normalcy didn't work, and that's how we got here. And so I don't want to return to normal. I want to make sure all of the structural issues that we're talking about are properly funded and are properly structuralized, with a very big attention on communities that have been systemically and systematically divested in. And we have to have people in government, like many of those who are here now, who understand that, but also have the political courage to push forward and make sure it gets done. And it's not just politics as usual, but it's really getting in. And lastly, I'll say there's this progressive versus not progressive and all that. And I'm not sure what progressive means anymore, because Governor Cuomo said he was progressive. So it's funny to me when I hear people complaining about progressive while trying to show that they're progressive at the same time. So it says to me that the things that we're pushing are actually the right things. I think the dividing line is really elected officials will understand that their position is not more important than the people they represent, and who will push past when necessary, even if it's leadership, even if it's somebody that can give you something, will push back to get it done. And those who won't, and those who fall back onto the established way things work. And I think that's where the dividing line comes, and understanding it's not always about doing kamikaze missions, but you do have to take a lot more risk than I've seen city, state, and especially federal politics. But I'm looking forward to working with the group of folks on this call for this administration we're going into. Folks may not realize, but it's actually my first term, my first full term. It's been a hell of a 2 years, so it seems like I've been here a lot longer, but I'm looking forward to continue the work that we've been working on. So peace and blessings, love and light to everyone.
Thank you so much. Couldn't have any better final words, and we definitely need to have you, Jumaane, come back and sing for us again in this forum. I appreciate every single one of you for showing up. You guys have been anywhere, but you were here with WEAC today. And we really do appreciate it. Councilmember Sean Abreu, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Carmen De La Rosa, Councilmember Kristen Richardson Jordan. We have Comptroller Brad Lander and Borough President Mark Levine, and singing public advocate, Jamani Williams. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. I will be stalking all of your offices for the next 4 months, at least. And then I'll give you a break a little bit after that, give you a little time. And then we're gonna take it back to Charles.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Thank you for participating in our meeting. It's so good to have all the elected officials. I just want to give a couple of shout outs to Al Taylor and also Robert Jackson, who participated in this meeting. I just want to say thank you to all our members showing up and participating. I just want to announce a thing that we're going to be doing the month of February. It's Fancy Hat February. So I'm encouraging everybody right now in February, whoever's our meeting is to bring a fancy hat or a cap so that way we can actually wear it on screen so we can see everyone participating in our meeting. So after that, I'm gonna bid you adieu. It's 12:10, so we ran a little bit over. I apologize for that, but I think the conversation went well. And I'm also thinking that all the questions that weren't answered, Lonnie's going to give us answers for them. So we're going to be sending it to the council members and the elected officials to answer those questions. And we're going to post those questions online. And hopefully the elected officials will answer those questions.